when you come to think of it, you have children that would have grown to the age of adulthood, but they continue to be children to their parents. But once they reach adulthood, their proximity to their parents tends to get compromised even more. They take interest in careers, they take interest in partners, they take interest in different places of abode, in entertainment, in sport, in other preoccupations that actually compete for their attention. And in the process, they get more and more distanced from their parents. And if, for example, they are living in a city or a settlement in the countryside or a station somewhere away from their parents, and they notify that they are visiting their parent perhaps over a weekend, and they would be traveling, whether by train, by air, by road, or even cycling or on foot. And if they were to notify the parents the time of their departure on the journey from where they are settled to the parents. So the parents' place would be their destination. Sometimes the parents would start picturing the route and considering the possible, stopovers, the amount of traffic, the types of travelers, co-travelers, or even strangers. The parents start imagining the atmosphere, the elements, the wind, the dust, the rain, the cold, the heat, maybe the felt fires, or the inclines and the slopes, the twists and turns, the speed, the congestion, the hazards. And the parents, from the day that they are told that the child will be traveling, even if it means they are informed 3 or more days ahead of the date of travel, they start, looking at all these factors, the retardants, the enablers, the possible engagements, the likely disturbances, and they start to pray about the child's journey way ahead of the date of the departure of the child to the destination, which is the place where the parents stay. Look at the emotional investment of the parents. Meanwhile, the child, now an adult, after telling the parents when they will be visiting them, they completely forget about the journey until the day. And then on the day that they have to travel, they make arrangements, preparations, if they're driving or if they are boarding some other means of transport. They organize things, maybe absent-mindedly, and then get onto the road or the train or get to the airport. To them, it's normal. There's nothing in any way unique or peculiar about that trip. And whilst they travel, they could be reading, they could be phoning, they could be watching videos, they could be doing anything. They could engage in conversations. Meanwhile, the parent would, from time to time, going down on the knees and praying for the safety of their child on the journey from where the child stays to the parent's place. So the parent will be so absorbed in the, the circumstances concerning the traveling of their adult child. And sometimes the child would not even think about the parents. They don't pray that they would find them in a good state of health. They don't even think about maybe praying over the provisions for the parents, the state of mind, the comfort of the parents. In fact, they forget about their parents until they get to the doorstep of the parents' house. And meanwhile, everything has been happening, in the subconscious without them noticing what they are doing, without paying attention. It is all happening on its own. The exchanges, the travel, the looking out for directions and so on, it's happening spontaneously. They are not paying special attention to what they are doing until they get to the gate and then the doorstep. And then they see their parents. They suddenly remember them. They all of a sudden remember them. Upon seeing them in that instance, would we say that the parents and the children are as close to one another, as the physical distance that we normally use in order to measure proximity? Would we say that the children, that child who has traveled from where they stay is as close to their parents as the parents are to the child. You know, would it be the same? Yeah. If you wear the shoes of the child and you are where you live and you think of the parents, to you, the parents are some distance away. But if you now don the head of the parent and consider the child, you would find that the distance from where the parent lives to where the child stays could actually be collapsed because the parent is so familiar with the landscape, with the possible, interactions, transactions, events that could take place, the atmosphere, the climate, the objects, the traffic, and the travelers themselves. So they are so closely connected to the adult child because of all those things that are so familiar, that loom large in the parent's imagination. And they don't consider their child to be far away, but the child who even forgets about the parent as the child travels, surely the parent will be far out of sight and would not be considered as close, in terms of comparison of the proximity between the parent and the child. Wouldn't you concede that the parent is closer to the child than the child is to the parent?